Hi, my name is Andrea Servi, and this is my final video project for art appreciation. I chose to research Vincent van Gogh in relation to the Post-Impressionism movement. Post-Impressionism refers to the style of art that dominated France between 1886 and 1905. Some people believe that artists from the Post-Impressionist period rejected the values behind Impressionism, but this wasn't the case. Post-Impressionism was heavily influenced by Impressionism. However, while you can see the stylistic similarities between artwork from the two periods, up-and-coming artists of the time began adapting their style to fit and better represent their values through their paintings. While the works of art produced during the Post-Impressionist movement are not unified by a specific aesthetic approach, they do contain several of the same aspects, such as heavy emotional symbolism, use of color, and distinctive brushstrokes. Post-Impressionist art was meant to evoke as well as convey deep emotion, so it is no wonder that Van Gogh was one of its major influencers. In this presentation, I will be discussing several of Vincent van Gogh's paintings in reference to the three main aspects of Post-Impressionist art. After discussing the differences between Impressionism and Post-Impressionism, I will first talk about Van Gogh's development of his artistic skills and style, beginning with the Potato Eaters, his use of vibrant color as shown in the Sunflower series, incorporation of bold brush strokes, also known as impasto, in paintings such as Starry Night, and the deep emotional content of paintings such as the portrait of Dr. Gachet. Here are two paintings. The left is an Impressionist painting titled Woman with a Parasol, Madame Monet and Her Son by Claude Monet, which was painted in 1875. The right is a Post-Impressionist painting titled Portrait of Joseph Rouland by Vincent van Gogh, which was painted in 1889. As far as technique, both pieces showcase use of impasto, which is a term that refers to the thick application of oil paint. In using this technique, the artist is able to create a textured image where the light and color looks as if they are coming off of the canvas. Woman with a Parasol is a painting of Monet's wife and son. I chose this painting to represent Impressionist art as it demonstrates the main focuses of the period, such as capturing a moment in time as well as naturalistic lighting. Many Impressionist artists, including Monet, practiced painting en plein air, which meant that they did the majority of their painting outside in the natural world, where the light is constantly changing. Impressionist artists aim to use the light as a way to convey things such as the passage of time or a change in the weather, and the lack of clarity, as shown in the brushstrokes, was purposely done to show movement as well as reveal the essence of the painting without necessarily having to paint a clear, concise image. Subjects of Impressionist paintings typically involve people partaking in everyday activities such as walking, eating, working, or anything else. Portrait of Joseph Rouland is a painting of one of Van Gogh's closest friends, who he met and became close with while living in Arles. Throughout Van Gogh's career as an artist, he painted numerous portraits of Rouland as well as his wife and kids. This painting is a good example of Post-Impressionist art because rather than painting everyday scenes, Post-Impressionists focused on painting subjects with connections to their memories and deeper emotions. As a man, Rouland played an important role in Van Gogh's life and provided emotional support through his struggles with mental illness. The style of this painting moves slightly away from the traditional Impressionism, hence it being characterized as part of the Post-Impressionism movement, as it incorporates vibrant colors, bold distinct lines, and an unnatural background. Van Gogh believed that he could bring Rouland's personality to life and express the kind of man he was through his use of color and design. The next work of art, titled The Potato Eaters, was actually Van Gogh's first painting, and many refer to it as his first masterpiece. While this painting is stylistically different from Van Gogh's later works, aesthetically it is the complete opposite, it still displays some of the same components, mainly emotion. The Potato Eaters features a group of peasants or farm workers sitting around the dinner table peeling and eating potatoes. As this painting was done before the start of the Post-Impressionist period, it is clear that Van Gogh hadn't yet found his style as an artist. His choice of subject matter reflects Impressionist art as it focuses on the day-to-day activities of regular people rather than nobility. This painting is highly regarded due to the emotional intensity of the individuals, as well as the amount of detail put into the background and other overlooked areas. As an article by the Van Gogh Gallery points out, some of these details include the picture frame located on the back wall, some of the stuff hanging in the background, and the weathered edges of the table, as well as the unique looks that convey how each and every person must be feeling. After moving to France, Van Gogh's art changed from being mostly dark and shadowy to innately more colorful as he began to adapt to the previously popular Impressionist style. However, he soon began to develop his own style and in doing so became one of several artists who led the post-Impressionist movement. These next three images are only a handful of paintings from a series of still life paintings titled Sunflowers. In comparison to the Potato Eaters, these paintings are drastically different in the way that they utilize intense, vibrant color. Not only are the colors brighter, but they are also unnatural in comparison to the pure lighting featured in Impressionist paintings. For example, the painting in the center has a dark blue background which greatly contrasts with the yellow of the sunflowers. Throughout this still life series, Van Gogh painted many of the same images, each varying in color as well as in the size of the canvas. Even once the series was finished, Van Gogh recreated some of the pieces in almost the same manner. So this painting is probably one of Van Gogh's most famous. I think the first time I saw Starry Night was when I was just 5 years old in school. While this is an extremely well-known work of art, not many people know the story or meaning behind the painting. After suffering his infamous mental breakdown in which he cut off his own ear, Van Gogh admitted himself into an insane asylum located in Saint-Remy, France. It was this view from his room on the second story where he was inspired to paint Starry Night. While admitted to the mental hospital, Van Gogh was given the privilege of having a studio to paint in and would watch the stars at night and later paint the images during the day. Although there were iron bars over his window, Van Gogh left out those details and focused on the landscape before him. The painting greatly shows the use of impasto as well as blunt and unblended brush strokes. While this painting isn't nearly as dark as some of his beginning work, the darker tone of the colors reflects Van Gogh's declining mental health and depression. Also, the village that is shown below was mostly created through Van Gogh's imagination and didn't actually exist there. The last painting I will be talking about is the portrait of Dr. Guéchet. This is one of the last paintings Van Gogh had done towards the end of his life. Like the portrait of Joseph Rouland, Van Gogh chose to feature someone who had a profound impact on his life. Dr. Guéchet cared for Van Gogh during his time in Saint-Remy and had become one of his close friends. This portrait is moving because it captures Dr. Guéchet in a very natural state, where he is shown more as a human being rather than a doctor. The look in his eyes, as well as the blue hues of paint, reveal his sadness, a sadness that Dr. Guéchet is feeling himself, as well as a reflection of the emotions felt by Van Gogh. Vincent van Gogh was a man who was deeply tied to his emotions and suffered from mental illnesses during most of his life. As the years went on, depression and bipolar disorder greatly affected his life, and while these issues were a great source of his unhappiness, they were also a source of deep emotion that was reflected throughout his artistic career. In 1890, Van Gogh committed suicide by shooting himself in the chest, and it wasn't until after his death that his artwork became appreciated. And here are all the references for my information.